Hello, and welcome to Smeg and the Femmes, a podcast to discuss Red Dwarf from a different perspective. I'm Janamali, and today I'll be talking about Series 2, Episode 1, Kryten, with the help of my guest, the Desolated Quil, or Quil for short. Hello, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Yeah. So, how did you get into the show?
I got it. I got into the show through my mum. She was a massive Red Dwarf fan. Like, she watched it since it first came out in 1988. I think it came out, yeah. And I remember when I was a kid, I would sort of like wander into her bedroom while she was sort of studying for university, and she would often binge watch Red Dwarf episodes on VHS. Mm-hmm. And then years later, this would have been when I was 11 or 12. So yeah, and I was really into sci-fi by that point. I was just looking for things to watch, and I went over to my mum's bedroom, and she'd got the series 1 to 6 on DVD. Mm-hmm. And I sort of went, oh yeah, Red Dwarf. Yeah, I vaguely remember that from when I was a kid. Yeah, I've never actually properly watched it though. Let's give it a go. And I watched all that, and then I begged my mum to get series 7 and 8 on DVD. That was an experience. And then from 2009 onwards, I with Back to Earth, I ended up watching Red Dwarf live with everyone else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's interesting how how many people got into it via their parents. I mean, with me, it was more my older sibling. And at the time, of course, she was into it when it was first airing. And managed to persuade our parents to watch it. Obviously, this was when we only had one TV. So it wasn't like Yes, I know. I'm showing my age,
I was born and raised in the 90s, so yeah, I got off lucky.
Yeah. Okay, right. So, to our first episode, Kryten, and of course, it opens with a very blatantly obvious to any Brit over the age of about 30. Neighbours parody.
Yeah, that got such a big laugh from me, mostly because I recognised one of the voices is Tony Slattery, who I was a big fan of. I used to watch Whose Line Is It Anyway a lot of the time, so it was just that big moment of kind of like, oh my god, that's Tony Slattery doing a really bad Australian accent.
Yeah, he's good. I like the way he sort of, the sort of deliberate bad acting.
Yeah. And then that theme song as well.
Of course, yeah. I mean, Howard Goodall has said that he wouldn't be able to do that now because regulations have been tightened. You can't be sort of so blindingly, obviously parodying well-known kind of properties. But God, I'm glad he was able to do that at the time because it was so funny and so relatable to British people at that time, who couldn't escape Labours whether they wanted to watch it or not,
Yeah, well, it's just, I think it's just a really funny way to open a series. Just that kind of throws you for a loop, don't it? Like, you go into it, having watched series 1, thinking you know what to expect, more of the same, and then suddenly you're on this completely different spaceship with this character you've never met, watching a robot version of Neighbours.
Yeah, I mean, the audience, I mean, assuming they watched in order, which they may not have done, but if they did, they must be completely thrown for a loop. But yeah. But yeah, I mean, obviously on to Kryten, or at least David Ross Kryten. It's a very relatable way to introduce him, as a mechanoid. Oh, he's watching soap, I mean, he's eating chocolates.
Well, yeah, I think it's. I mean, I've spoken to you before about this. It's like Kryten has always been my all-time favourite character in the whole show,
Mhm.
And I just think that is such a wonderful way to introduce him, because it, especially on rewatching the episode, it's clear how it sort of sets up his character arc. Like the way I see it is that the androids show is sort of, in many ways, sort of symbolizes what he, like, deep down wants to achieve. You know, independence, and you know, the
Mhm.
ability to sort of pick and choose the life he wants to lead, like the characters do in androids, where they're free to get married and have affairs, and you know, have children and that kind of thing. You know, it's sort of like deep down that's what he wants, even if at that point he's not quite ready to admit it to himself yet.
Yeah, I mean, I did go back on Tumblr and have a look at your review of this episode and a little bit better than life, and yeah, I was struck by that because I mean, obviously, it's very obvious, that he aspires to that, because these androids, they're clearly independent, and have their own lives. I mean, obviously, it's something he wants to do. I mean, it's and
Yeah,
obviously, to us human beings, that's very relatable. An android has been programmed to serve but wants to be human. I mean, you can't really get much more relatable than that.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and he's just such a. I suppose the word I'd use for him is just sweet. You know, he's just
Yeah.
such a, like. There's something about. I mean, obviously, everybody knows now, associates Kryten with Robert Llewellyn, because
Mhm.
he's made the part so much his own. But
Yeah.
David Ross's initial interpretation is just, there's something so
Sweet about
sincere
it. Yeah.
about it. He doesn't play it as a stereotypical robot, and he doesn't necessarily play it for laughs either. It feels true. Like he's just this incredibly sweet, good-natured person who just wants to help people, and deep down he wants, a life for himself, but he's so selfless that it takes a lot of coaxing from Lister to get him to start to realize that he deserves better.
Yeah. 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 It's a very very nice and sweet storyline. I mean, we'll come back to get back to that and the relationship between Lister and Kryten. But moving on for the moment to where we meet Lister and Rimmer again, which is obviously the scene where Rimmer's attempting very badly to learn Esperanto.
Esperanto. Yeah,
That is
yeah.
such a great scene. I love
Yeah.
it.
But I mean, this episode's like full of great gags. But yeah, the Esperanto scene was, I think the reason that was in there, if I'm remembering right, in interviews, was that I think because of series one, they had sort of, um, like on walls and stuff, they'd have like signs in English and Esperanto. Like they were trying to sort of establish the culture of it, and this was kind of this scene was to kind of bring it to the forefront, while at the same time giving us some great character-related gags and insights into their both Lister and Rimmer's sort of education levels.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's a really good way, to sort of bring something that was in the background, in the first series, and use it to tell us more about our characters. Because yeah, there is actually, I mean, you may not have listened to it because it's on the Body Snatcher collection, but there is a Ed By and Durgan Ada do a commentary for Kryten, and one of them, I can't remember, not sure which, says that this scene actually establishes that Lister is basically more intelligent than Rimmer, and sorry, Rimmer fans, but I agree.
no, it's. I mean, it's true. I mean, the reason, I mean, that's part of the reason why I think the Lister Rimmer dynamic works so well is that on the one hand, you've got this man who aspires for greatness but doesn't have the intellect or talent to achieve it, and on the other hand, you've got Lister who is quite intelligent, but he doesn't he's never aspired to be anything other than himself. He's
Exactly,
perfectly
yeah.
content with who he is, and that's just such
Yeah.
a yeah. That's what makes him, I think, such a relatable protagonist. I think, and why I think Red Dwarf fans gravitate to him so much.
Yeah, and I should clarify. I mean, I'm not saying that Rim is stupid. I'm simply saying, that.
No, 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 no. Of
Yeah,
course,
I'm simply saying that he basically
you don't become
he's
a
trying.
technician without qualifications, obviously. But it's just the things he wants to be, like a navigation officer, like the skills that's required to do that is clearly well beyond him.
Exactly, and also it does actually get into this in detail in the book. In one of the books, it makes it very clear. The reason he can't, I mean, ability aside, he just has absolutely zero interest in astronavigation. It bores him to tears. And the reason he, as in Rimmer, can't get anywhere is because he's simply chosen the wrong areas. I mean, if
Yeah,
he'd chosen something he's actually interested in, then he might get somewhere.
yeah, yeah. I think it's. I don't think it's ever stated outright in the TV show, but I think it's heavily implied that the reason he's gone for that in the first place is because of his dad. He wants. Whereas, as you say, if he picked any other career option, he might have excelled at it, but it wouldn't have made his dad proud. And that's
Exactly, yeah.
really the core of the whole character. Sadly.
Yeah, and
I mean, not yeah.
unfortunately, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
France is hilarious.
Yeah, of course, yeah. It is hilarious. Yeah, I mean, that's what makes him such a great sort of tragicomic character. He's both funny but he's funny and sad at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh well, I did want to say briefly. In the book, well, the book which adapts this episode, it actually makes Lister even lazier because in the scene, in the episode, he says he dropped out of art college because the lectures started first thing in the afternoon at 12:30.
Afternoon.
Yeah, and then in the book it says 2:30, so even makes him even lazier.
I mean, we can all relate to that to a certain extent. I resent having to go into university in the afternoon when I've just spending like long, lazy mornings in bed and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I mean,
I went to uni and I can relate to.
Yeah, but just unlike Lister though, I wouldn't have the courage to go, oh, sod this, I'm just going to quit and stay at home.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but of course that's Lister for you. He doesn't care. At least doesn't care about sort of academic success and money and stuff. I mean, his ambitions are all very modest.
Yeah.
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 I did notice though, in this scene, even though Lister and Rimmer, are still sort of clashing in their classic way, they are starting to get on a bit better. But when Holly appears, they sort of both get impatient with him. I mean, they're both like, "Oh, get on with it! Stop making us guess and stuff." They are starting to get on a little bit better than they did in series one, which is nice.
Yeah, I think series 2 is kind of the turning point for their relationship. I think it's like it's done in a very believable way as well. Like Kryten, yeah, they're more sort of getting along together, but then when Kryten gets into the picture and Rimmer starts mistreating him, like he's very clearly the antagonist in that episode. But then from Better Than Life onwards, you notice that they do seem to not necessarily become friends. I think it's too soon to say that, but there's a lot more moments of them bonding and actually sharing each other's pasts and sort of consoling each other, albeit in their own not ideal way.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, whether or not you ship them. I know you don't particularly. I mean, even just if you're watching it as a general viewer, it's nice to sort of see him getting a bit closer. I mean, obviously this becomes a lot more obvious in the next episode, Better Than Life, which we'll get to in due course.
Yes, yeah, I've. Just to clarify, I've always been of the opinion that because of certain scenes in certain episodes, whether it was intentional or not, I always got the sense that Rimmer may be a closet bisexual. Just because I seem to a lot of his self-loathing, and I very much kind of identify with myself and in my teens, repressing my bisexuality. So, but yeah, I don't necessarily ship them, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I actually agree with you. I mean, I sort of go back and forth whether I read Rimmer as totally gay or just or bisexual or pansexual. But he is definitely attracted to men, and he is definitely repressing the hell out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think Demons and Angels, I think, was the big giveaway, but there are others as well that you could sort of point to and go, yeah, he's repressing something. The poor guy. He just needs someone to talk to. Bless him, and just tell him it's okay.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just yeah. It's just it's just one of the many elements of his character, and it's so weird that the writers apparently did not intend it. I mean, you have to ask them, well, what did you think you were doing with No River then? I mean,
It's very much a side effect of having a cast of all men or mostly men. You end up having these very unintentional homoerotic undertones to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially for members of the LGBT community, we've been starved for representation for years. Well, naturally, we latch onto these undertones and take these characters and sort of cling on to them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I know No Rimmer is not what you call positive representation, but I mean, he's not, to put it mildly, but I mean, he's not Rimmer. He's just the worst aspects of Rimmer. So there you go.
Yeah.
The whole thing of Lister, Rimmer, and Kat getting all excited because they think they're going to meet three attractive young women, again.
Yeah.
It's just
the big laugh was when Lister used the spray paint to cover the hole in his trousers. I just got such a big laugh. But also, someone else, I never actually connected to this until rewatching it just now. This is the first time we hear Rimmer calling himself Ace.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah, I mean, this is where the sort of seed of Ace Rimmer is sown. We find out that Rimmer wanted to be called Ace at school. He wasn't, but he wanted to.
Yeah, it was just a very kind of. Yeah, I've rewatched the episode loads and loads of times, and honest to God, that's the first time I actually noticed that. It's like, oh yeah, well that's right. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I doubt they were planning to do Ace, all along.
At that time, but I mean, probably, presumably they, sort of went through their scripts, had copies of their scripts, and maybe when they were rereading them or whatever, or rewatching the tapes or whatever, the idea must have sprung from somewhere, presumably.
Yeah. Just goes to show how much they care about their characters and the attention to detail. Well, I'd say, continuity aside.
Yeah. Oh, continuity. What's that?
Yeah. So long as people are laughing, it doesn't matter. No one will care.
I mean, to be fair, they are right. People, the general audience don't really care much about continuity. I mean, as long as it makes them laugh. I mean, so. I mean, why should they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there was Rob Grant's influence. Like Doug Naylor, I think was a little bit more sort of apprehensive about changing aspects of the canon, but Rob Grant was the one that convinced him, sort of going, Doug, it's a comedy show. No one's going to care. Just
exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think he was definitely right. I mean, obviously, there are hardcore fans. I mean, and I would count myself amongst that.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Who nitpick at the continuity. But I mean, personally, I do it for fun most of the time. It doesn't bother me so much as I like coming up with explanations for it.
Yeah. No, it doesn't. I mean, I nitpick because that's the career I've chosen for myself. but yeah, no, it doesn't necessarily bother me. Continuity errors as such, provided it doesn't distract from the story too badly.
Exactly. I mean, obviously, when the episode is isn't as good as these particular episodes we're talking about. It bothers you more, you know. I mean, a continuity error in a really crappy episode is just gonna stand out much more.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Right. Okay. Let me see. Let me see. Skipping ahead somewhat. Yeah. To where they've taken Kryten back to Red Dwarf, and Rimmer's taken advantage of his programming, you know, to sort of put him to work, and then Lister comes in and finds, you know, he's completely reinvented the bunk room, you know, and etc. etc. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
this to me is a pretty crucial scene, you know. I mean, well, obviously, in terms of the episode and in terms of the relationship between Lister and Kryten, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's one of the things that's made me stick with the show all these years. Is I know Lister and Rimmer are the core dynamic, but and that's really good as well. But for me, my absolute favourite aspect of it has always been the friendship that grows between Lister and Kryten, and it all starts in that episode. And I just love how that's handled
Yeah, I mean,
because
I like their
yeah, go on.
relationship. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, I like the relationship too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's again, it's just it's so sweet, and also it's because I mean the obvious benefit was for Lister is able to teach Kryten how to break his programming, but
Mm-hmm.
but the other aspect that I don't think is talked about quite as often is that Kryten helps Lister to mature as a person. Like you notice how I mean my big point of reference to that is in not wanting to like skip ahead too far in series 3 in Body Swap you see Rimmer and Kryten trying to fix the ship and all Lister cares about is his poker game. And then you go to series 4 with DNA, and they've got the mysterious spaceship, and Lister is sat right next to Kryten doing all the calculations and everything. I would never have imagined in a million years series 1 Lister doing that. But it feels like with Kryten, it's kind of like he's learned to kind of take some responsibility, become more of an adult. That's the impression I get anyway.
Yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, I mean, part of that must have been, I mean, of course, off screen between the end of series 2 and series 3. Um,
Yeah.
he, as in Lister, repaired Kryten, you know, so that was probably the beginning. Well, plus obviously giving birth to Jim Bexley. I mean, giving birth is going to kind of make you grow up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Fortunately, I can only imagine too, but yes.
But yeah, just that whole scene, and again, it's kudos to David Ross for just doing such a brilliant job in that scene, because when he's talking about how he wants a garden, again, he's not playing it for laughs or anything. It's with complete sincerity. It's a really simple dream, but it's a powerful one for him. Like and it reflects his character. He is a naturally kind of nurturing and caring person. But the only difference is with a garden, he'll be doing it for himself rather than for someone else. And it's just such a really nice bit of characterization. And I just love that Lister is in full support of it. And that's in some ways what the Esperanto scene is about as well, in a way, kind of setting this up is, he's perfectly content with who he is. He's not like Rimmer where he's trying to become, he wants to sort of become like an admiral or something. He's perfectly happy with who he is. And he wants Kryten to feel that as well. He doesn't want him to be subservient to the system, which is what Rimmer is. Like in some ways, Rimmer represents the establishment, and Lister resists that every chance he gets, and he teaches Kryten to resist it as well. And I just love the dynamic of, especially as the show goes on, where it sort of becomes, Lister and Kryten are sort of like almost sort of like the lowest of the low, but they sort of help to sort of become better versions of themselves and become the people they were meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, the sort of relationship between Lister and Kryten is one of them sort of becoming better people as a result of their friendship. I mean, and it's just a nice sort of low key thing. I mean, because obviously it takes second place to the Lister River relationship. But
Of
it
course,
is
yeah.
nice when you see it in the background.
Yeah.
It's
I
just
think that might have been why as well, and this is going to be a very controversial opinion on this podcast, I think that's the reason why I like Series 7 more than some people do. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not necessarily saying Series 7 is good, because let's be brutally honest, it isn't. But I do. When they left, it meant Lister and Kryten ended up becoming the central focus in a way, and I do kind of like what they do with it, even though there are loads of problems we could go into and talk about. It's just, yeah. Speaking of someone who's just really into the Lister and Kryten friendship, that was Series 7 was practically a gold mine for me. There were just so many like really nice moments, but that's a whole other video.
Yeah. Well, me personally, I don't hate Series 7. I regard it as sort of very mixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's better than Series 8. I mean, that sounds like damning with faint praise, but I mean, it is better than Series 8. But
Series 8
yeah.
goes to hell.
Well, but let's not get on to Series 8 because we're not talking about that at the moment. But I mean, Series 7 is I guess to someone who loves the Lister Kryten relationship. I mean, yeah, of course it would be better than someone who's more into the Lister River dynamic, and I mean that in either the sort of platonically or otherwise. I mean, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do like parts of Series 7. I kind of like it more for its potential than it's than what we actually get on screen. But yeah, sorry, I'm being informed that we have 9 minutes left. So I do want to sort of briefly get onto the book version of Kryten. Of course, it does change it a little bit.
Yes, in that Kryten is the one who kills the crew.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you already knew that because they do mention it in a Roborus, but they don't explain what happened. Yeah, I mean it's
he spills a drink on the computer and tries to clean it up, isn't it?
Actually, no. It's worse than that. He just decides to clean the computer because he thinks it needs cleaning.
Oh, just okay. Oh, the poor.
He was just going.
No, he didn't know what he was doing. We can't be too hard on him.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, oh my God, Kryten. I mean, I guess at least the Nova 5 ladies did survive the crash and presumably lived for a reasonable amount of time after it because he looked after them so well.
Well, yeah. Yes, if nothing else, if we say nothing else, he is very dedicated to his job.
Yes, very, very, very
beyond the pale.
Yeah. I did want to say it's interesting how in the book the Nova 5 ladies, they're given different names and they're pretty different. They're quite different from the TV version as well. I mean, in the TV version, they're all aged about 22 to 25 and sort of conventionally attractive, whereas in the book version, one of them at least is the captain, and she's a bit older. She's 33, and she has a crew cut. And it just feels more realistic to me.
Yeah. I think because it's a sitcom, I think they were sort of playing up the whole, we haven't seen a woman in years, now's our chance. And then, of course, the payoff being that, oh my God, they're dead.
Exactly,
which then leads to, I think, the best gag in the entire episode, which is Kryten going, my God, but I was only away for 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely understand. Why in the episode they went for young, conventionally attractive, etc. Because
Sort of the low hanging fruit, in a sense.
it makes it even funnier. When it turns out, oh, they're dead. They've been dead for centuries.
And then Lister, of course, the cherry on top. Lister sort of going, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but my mate Ace here is incredibly brave. Just in this
it's absolutely hilarious. It really is. I'm just going to mention one thing they added in the book, which I do like. Which is when Lister tells Kryten to chill out. Kryten interprets that as an order, and he attempts to chill out. He goes to Copacabana and tries to dance and stuff, but and fails utterly to chill out. It's just the visual of Kryten attempting to chill out is just hilarious.
That's what I love about Kryten, is that he so desperately wants to be human, but just can't quite get the grasp of it. And it just. And especially like the way Red Dwarf handle it as well in general is just like I'm fascinated by the idea that, because we've done robots wanting to become human before in other sci-fi stories, but this felt unique because what makes us human isn't our ability to love, but our ability to lie, which I find a fascinating concept. And obviously in series 4 they go into it in more detail about with Lister saying how it can be noble to lie. And it just ties into the whole sort of class warfare aspect of it. It's all about sticking it to the upper classes, and about resisting against the system. And that's what Lister effectively teaches Kryten to do. And then the ending, of course, when goes, "What do you got?" Starts doing
I love the ending because I must admit, I absolutely cringe when Rimmer refers to Kryten as it. No, stop it,
Yeah, that was a great ending. And got a round of applause as well. I think that was the moment when I think the people in the show began to realise that fans were starting to latch onto the show. Just the sheer length of laughs in that episode and the amount of rounds of applause that it got. Yeah, it's just.
I didn't know. I mean, Kryten has a very enthusiastic audience, and it's obviously because they've seen the first series and they know the characters, and they're really sort of latching onto them. So, which is nice,
Yeah. It's also a testament to how brilliant a character Kryten is, considering he was originally only going to be a one-off, and people got attached to him so quickly to the point where Rob and Doug went, "Hey, let's bring him back as a regular." I love the character and love the episode. It's one of my favourites.
Yeah. I mean, it really is a very good episode, and you can absolutely see why they decided to bring Kryten back as a regular, because he's just sort of instantly endearing and relatable. And it's just sweet. Yes, sweet is a word.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what score would you give this episode out of 10? Both overall quality and also for slashiness. Because I'm curious as to how you'd rate it as somebody who isn't really into slash.
Overall, maybe I'm biased, but overall, I'd honestly give it a 10. Like, it's honestly one of my all-time favourite episodes. It's just really, really funny and really just well written in general, and this is the episode that made me a Red Dwarf fan, pretty much. So it always have a special place in my heart. In terms of slashiness, it'd probably be quite a low score, honestly, because the emphasis is mostly on the boys trying to attract the girls and that kind of thing. So I think that's the life game gives more opportunities for slash potential. So probably like a 3 at most.
Fair enough.
That's just me.
Yeah. Okay. My slashiness score out of 10 is 5. And my overall score out of 10 is 8.5, because I mean it's a lovely episode. I mean, but I'm trying to leave some space for back to reality and so on.
fair enough. I
Right.
mean, I put this up there with Back to Reality personally, but again, I might be just a bit biased, so ignore me.
It's okay. No, I mean, it is good to have different opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, right. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Smeg and the Femmes. Thank you to Hologamet for technical help. I hope you enjoyed listening. If you'd like to give us feedback, you can do so on either Tumblr or Discord on the posts where I'll link to this episode. You can also email us at smegandthefemmes@gmail.com. The next episode we'll be covering, naturally enough, will be Better Than Nice. I hope you'll join us then, but for now, goodbye.